if GURPS was better presented in better orders, but with the same mechanics, it would be an amazing game. Hello everyone and Happy New Year's! We didn't expect to make a video right now because we're in our break, as we said in our last Everfans show. One of our video had a lot of comments and a lot of negative reaction, and we just wanted to address that. It is important for us to, be open with people and reply to these things. And I don't think that just replying in the comment is enough at this point. We decided to divide this video in 3 main sections. So the first part is that we'll talk about something that maybe we should have talked more in our last video, is the positive of the game GURPS. So the second part is that we'll talk about Dalen's game prep. We just wanted to show you that we do play GURPS, and Dalen has great game prep for GURPS, and I think it's an important thing to address because I think a lot of people think we just read the book and did the review, which is not the case. We both played for a long time. And then we'll talk about some of the comment. We'll reply to some of these things. Dalen, go ahead. What do you like about GURPS?
Well, first of all, I want to say again, I think I said it in the video, but I want to say it again. I love GURPS. And by the way, I've seen some things in the comments. I don't like D&D. I really do not. I've played D&D for 3 years, and I quit D&D because I wanted to play GURPS, and I liked GURPS better. Okay, so let's start with that. I love GURPS because it's really adaptable. You can do anything with it. You can play in any setting with any character you can imagine. You can build the stats, the advantages, the disadvantages that you want for your character. You can do anything you want with GURPS. And I think that's one of the things that really makes this system amazing.
Another thing that we really like about GURPS is all the fan-made content. And I think that's one of the reasons why people took it as much to heart when we did a kind of a negative review of the game, is that a lot of people have worked years on developing amazing fan-made content. And that's great. The community is amazing, and there's so much thing that you can do with only the fan-made content. It's insane. You can find pretty much fan-made content for anything. And also, I know I made kind of a meme out of it, but we know that GURPS is not an official book published by Steve Jackson's game. That would make no sense, as that we love the mechanics. It's highly balanced. It's super realistic.
With just the core rules of GURPS, you can do a lot of stuff. You're just not going to have the specific stats of the gun of that year. But you can still put a gun and use a gun during that period. One last thing I wanted to say about the fact that we love GURPS and that maybe it wasn't conveyed well enough in the video. And that's something we're going to try to correct in the future videos that we're going to make. We're going to add the section where what's the target audience of this game, who should not try a game. So for GURPS, anyone that wants to have a highly realistic game, a lot of details, can simulate anything they want, GURPS is a great game for that.
We did both encounter a lot of issues. Some can see it as non-issues, like the fact that you need to prepare so much for a game. Some people are like, well, it's great. But at the same time, it's our own experience that if you want to pass so much time on just finding the right rule for your system.
I love prepping for games. I love building the characters, building the universe, making sure that they all have stats that fit within the system. I was doing that with GURPS, and it was working very well. The only thing is that with GURPS, you pretty much have to do it. And that goes with the playability score that we gave GURPS. Someone starting out that picks up GURPS will get discouraged and won't want to play anything else.
I think it's important also that we talk a bit about our own game that we made, which is BFD, which if we would review it right now, it would get a worse score than GURPS.
It's an alpha stage. We encourage you to look it up and give us constructive criticism for us to make it better. Our first objective when we started building Battle for Diratia was we wanted to contact Steve Jackson Games and suggest to them to build GURPS 5th edition for free for them. That's what we wanted to do. That's what we were prepared to do. But we decided not to go that way after much debate.
If GURPS was better presented in better orders, but with the same mechanics, it would be an amazing game.
Don't misunderstand what we're saying. We're not saying that GURPS should have other mechanics or anything like that. And I think a 5th E version of GURPS with the same mechanics as 4th edition, with a new presentation, a better structure, a better playability, would go a long way. And by the way, I know that there's GURPS Lite that you can use for free and try the game and play with that. And I've tried it many times and it never worked.
Yeah, I think that GURPS Lite is just that GURPS is it's a great system, but you can't strip too much out of it. If you try to strip too much out of something that is complex, it can just kill the game. There's also the fact that a lot of rules are not in the base book, but they should be in it. A lot of weapon, a lot of lists should be in the base book. Even if it makes the books bigger, I think it's worth it. Just having more tools in the base.
If you could just have the useless text that's in the books, you can cram in both the campaign and the character books in one.
Yeah.
Both of these should fit in 350 pages.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of fluff too. And it's a thing that we see a lot with role-playing games. It seems like these games want to have as much page as possible, but half of what's written is not useful to the player or the DM. And I think the worst game for that, I'm going to be honest, is Vampire the Masquerade.
And we're not criticizing GURPS here. We're criticizing every role-playing game.
Yeah.
It's like they think that the more text they put in, the more serious they're going to come out. By putting more and more text, it just makes the game less approachable. It makes the game more difficult to reference. Okay, so let's go with your experience. So
GURPS was a book that my brother had in the basement. And at that time, he played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, but he still had GURPS, and I think he's played it a few times. But it was the first role-playing game I picked up. And I thought it was amazing. I really liked it as a kid. Even the presentation, when I was young, I did like it. But every time I tried to play it, I remember it was really, really hard to make a game fun for my players. And what I mean by that is that I needed to work a lot before DMing any game. And I thought that was what you needed to do as a DM for the longest time. And even to this day, I'm someone that over-prep sometime, which I shouldn't, but, you know. And once I discovered other system where you didn't have to do that, that's where I started to get frustrated with GURPS. But that's not like in 1 year or 2 years. It's not like one day I was frustrated with GURPS and, you know, like it just... So I started playing GURPS in 2006. I started finding GURPS unappealing around 2018, 2019. So maybe it's just my personal experience that kind of cloud my judgment. People have pointed that out, that I say like, oh, it's the worst thing ever, or it's the best thing ever. And I always do that. I always hyperbole everything I do. But that's just how I am. And I think that's why my personal experience with GURPS isn't
only a
super
Sith
good.
Deals in absolute.
Yes, I know. I'm a Sith, okay?
By the way, I discovered GURPS and I tried GURPS out because Zach was talking about it all the time and that he was saying that it was an amazing game.
Yeah, I was saying it was the best role-playing game. I was always saying Dungeons & Dragons, and I still say that to this day. I hated Dungeons & Dragons because I was like, if you want to create something different, you can't. The game, it stucks you in a bottle and it's super annoying. And what I was saying is I remember I was always saying it like that. I was saying GURPS mean General Universal Role-Playing System for a reason. And it's because you can do anything you want. And that's what a role-playing game should be. And I still think that to this day. It's just that I felt that since I discovered new system that I preferred, it's hard to go back to GURPS these days, but I still really like it. And if ever one day they release a 5th edition, I would buy it day one. Yeah, and that's why I said in the description of the video, P.S. Steve Jackson, we love you. It's true.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about our reviewing system.
Yeah.
So our reviewing system, what we determined is we're reviewing only the core of the game. So for GURPS, it was GURPS character plus GURPS campaign. We talked a bit about the surrounding books, but we were mainly reviewing these 2 books. If we were to review D&D, we would just review the player handbook and the Dungeon Master book. Another thing is we're reviewing the book right now based on what we think could be the perfect game. And I don't think there is any game on the market that would have a perfect score.
No, there's not.
I think it is impossible.
Well, for sure. And any game can be criticized. That's just the thing, is that even if you really like a game, it doesn't mean it's good. I'm going to go and say, I really, really like Starfinder, but I don't think it's a good game. Which is weird, right? But I like playing
Even
it.
if we go in cinema, I always say that Star Wars is my favorite movie series.
Yeah.
I always follow up that statement with, I don't think they are the best movies that were made. They're my favorite movies, but I don't think they're the best movies that were made.
So I think that a lot of comments were also about us never playing the game. So if Dalen, can you just show on the screen a bit of your game prep?
This is my OneNote document that I used to prep my last game that we finished before COVID started. So this is just some mechanic notes and some mechanics that I custom built to add on to GURPS to make the game easier to run. So these were just reminders and notes that I had for myself to have them on hand when we had to roll something. With the introduction for the players, I noted there's some of their stats with their advantages, disadvantages, so that way I could remember if one of my players wasn't using their disadvantages correctly.
Yeah, which is a
like cannot arm innocents.
That's a hard one when you play a role-playing system.
I had my missions, and all of my missions, all of my everything I built for my game have links that you can just click and it brings you to the character. So this is one of the NPCs with his stats. Well, now you can see that he's dead because the campaign is finished. So I was noting when a character was dead. I also had my locations. So I had locations with different pictures just so that I didn't show these pictures to my players, by the way. I just put these pictures there to inspire me. So when my players entered the Grizzly Tavern, I could describe to them the feel that and how the place was structured.
You can't say we don't like GURPS. Like, if you create whole documents changing some of the mechanics just to fit on your game, you like GURPS. A fact of it, right? I don't think it's a secret. But yeah, maybe in our original video we didn't say the good thing enough. But the thing is that our video is also reviewing from the standpoint that be able to tell if we will buy the game in its current state right now, whatever the game is. Which for GURPS, for me, was a no, and it's still a no. If I know someone who's like, hey, I'm interested in a role-playing game, or I've played D&D and I want to switch game, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, go buy GURPS, because I feel it's too outdated. I still feel that way, and that's why I'm saying, if they release a 5th edition, I'm buying it. We'll just go into the comments part of the video. So we receive a lot of really constructive criticism, and that's really important for us. We take them to heart, and it's really a thing that pushes us forward. First one that I want to address is by Vala's Dark Home, who says, to play Dungeon Fantasy, you could also just grab the Dungeon Fantasy RPG cord set and not the main GURPS book, and add more Dungeon Fantasy expansion to taste. I didn't have Dungeon Fantasy. Maybe that was the issue. If I would have discovered Dungeon Fantasy first.
First of all, we were reviewing GURPS Core, not GURPS Dungeon Fantasy. And second of all, most of my games weren't medieval or fantasy. I played games in multiple settings, but maybe only one or two of my games were in the Middle Ages. We gave an example. Dungeon Fantasy is one of the most popular settings for role-playing games.
So I have another one, which is we would have made the video for as a non-popular opinion. What I'm going to say is that, contrary to what the fans might think of GURPS, GURPS isn't that popular. And, you know, there's still a good core fan base, but most people don't discover GURPS to this day. And that's not why we made the video. The reason why we started our first review with GURPS was because it's one of the games that we both played the most. I think that's one of the big reasons, right? There's a lot of people who said that our review seems influenced by D&D, as if D&D was better. So I think we talked about that before.
I hate D&D.
Yeah, we both hate D&D, so that's just not true. A lot of people say I do a lot of hyperbole and I'm a lot emotive, which I already addressed, but it is just how I am. So I hope it's funny. So that's a weird one for me. Also, unlike other game systems, you don't play GURPS. You roleplay a scenario or campaign in a genre, and you use GURPS to resolve what happens after. So what I'll say about that is that unlike other game systems like Fate, like it's just, there's so much game systems that are way more focused on the roleplay and playing a role, and GURPS is a game. It is made as a game. Like, I can understand that it's a toolbox in which you build upon. It's still a game. Like, in its core base, it's still a game. You roll dice.
Yeah, it's a toolbox, but it's
still a game.
It's presented as a role-playing game. It's not presented as a toolbox to help you do a role-playing game.
Yeah, it is presented as a game as a whole. Even if it is a tool, most people use it as a toolbox, but it's still presented as a game. And even if it was a toolbox to create games is still a game. Okay, also, another thing we saw in a lot of the comments is that a lot of the comments seem to say that we're not totally objective. First thing is that we both give a separate score. And it's just, I always review things as my experience that I have with the product, reviewing as our personal opinion, because we're not better than them. We don't review for competition and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're not reviewing like, okay, this is a systematic score. It's our opinion.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this video. Please comment under it. Send us more of your constructive criticism. We love reading it, and we love having discussions with you in the comments. So keep sending them. We're happy to see them. If you're interested, go and see our game Battle for Diratia. It's still in alpha. We're working on it actively and trying to make it better. So every comment that we get on it helps us make it better. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you want to see more of our game reviews. We have a review of Black Seas coming up next week. Have a great New Year's celebration, and we'll see you in the next one.